3, 2, 1. Let's get started.
This is the podcast.
Are you ready for takeoff?
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Healthy with Heartland podcast. I'm your host, Justin Freishtat, and today we have a very special guest for you. This is Nick Redding right here. Welcome to the podcast, buddy.
What's up, everyone? Thanks, Justin, for having me.
Absolutely. So how did you end up here at Heartland? Tell us your story. Where is Nick Redding coming from? Where is he going?
So I actually, in a past life, was an engineer. So I used to work in construction, project management, but I've always been pretty interested in weightlifting, health, and good food. I was looking to make a change, and I joined Heartland about 6 months ago. And it's been fantastic because I feel every day like the work that I'm doing and the knowledge that I have, I can take that and use that to make people's lives better.
Awesome. So what are we going to be talking about today?
Today, we're talking about counting calories and macros.
Awesome.
The elements of food.
Great. Yeah, I think a lot of people have heard the terms, probably don't know what it means. So first question, what is a macro?
So macros are kind of the building blocks of food. So everyone thinks, you put food in your body, food is food, but there's kind of three major tiers. So you've got carbohydrates, rice, pasta, things like that, sugar, protein, which is meat, and there's different proteins in other products as well, but protein, which is what you use to build muscle, and then fat, which people tend to be afraid of fat, but it's actually a really good thing when you get it from the right sources and when you know how much you're getting.
Excellent. So now we've broken down the three, main types of macros. Why should I follow my macros and count calories? What's the reason to do it?
So a lot of it has to do with just knowing what you're putting in your body. Most people think they can kind of estimate and they can say, I feel like I ate enough. Maybe I had 500 calories here, 500 calories there, but really you don't know. And just from my personal experience, by having everything in an app, a tracking app, I can go into it and see, okay, boom, I ate enough of this, I ate enough of that. I know I'm on track and I'm where I need to be. Otherwise, you're just kind of guessing. And if you're guessing, you're losing, not weight.
That makes sense. So as far as the tracking, the different apps that are out there, which one do you use and why?
So I use an app called My Macros Plus. I think it's like $2 a month. But basically, the My Macros Plus app, you can do a few things. You can put in recipes for food that you are eating. So if you're cooking at home, you can save, for example, if you make a certain chili, you can save that. And every time you go to eat it, you just weigh it out, put a little bit in there, and okay, cool, I'm getting this much fat, this much protein, this much carbs, and I'm going to be working towards my goal for the day. Another popular one was it MyFitnessPal? I think Under Armour bought that one a while back. I think that's like $15 a month. The reason I like the My Macros Plus app, at least from what I've seen, is it'll actually break down how many grams of carb and protein and fat I have for the day. And I do a lot of weightlifting, and so for me, protein is really important. Well, fat and carb as well, but with protein, I'm always trying to kind of hit a certain amount. So with My Macros Plus, I can just pop into it. Okay, cool. I need to eat, a chicken breast or something, or almonds or whatever, and I'm good for the day. That's right there. Easy to see.
Awesome. So where can people look for the calories and macro data? Where do they find that?
So, Google is a beautiful tool. You can get pretty much anything you need on there. A specific website that I've found very helpful, because they'll ask you quite a bit of questions kind of about your activity levels, what's your age, your height. It's called If It Fits Your Macros, so IIFYM. And that's a really good source for people to start, because they can go in, asks you a few simple questions about your activity levels, whether you're doing weight training or cardio, what's your height and your weight, and they'll give you kind of a basic macro and calorie estimate that you can kind of work off of. And then from there, you can reduce or increase depending on what your health goals are. most people probably want to lose a bit of weight. So a lot of the times you can reduce maybe like a 10% of your calories for the day. And then you can, for example, cut out 10% of your calories. You don't really feel like you're sacrificing a whole lot, but over time, that little 10% difference is going to add up and you can lose 5, 10, 15 pounds.
Interesting. Strange question. What if I just stop eating entirely?
If you stop eating, it's going to be cool for a little while. Probably not going to be real fun, but give it a go,
Gotta eat, right? So if you're on a macro plan, I guess, can you still eat things like ice cream?
Absolutely. So that's one of the beauties of doing things like this is, you can start your day off. Maybe you have a really good breakfast, have a lot of protein, get a lot of your healthy fats, and you're thinking to yourself, man, it's Friday. Like, I want to save myself 500 calories. So tonight when I get home, I can have some ice cream, and you can do that. So you've got the flexibility there.
Awesome. So on the topic of fats, which is one of the macros.
Yes.
What are the different types and the differences? Because it's not all created equal, right?
Yeah. So the standard American diet, the SAD diet, people tend to eat a lot of what are called omega-6 fatty acids. So there's omega-6 and omega-3s. And most people eat a lot of vegetable oils or corn-blasted beef that's very high in omega-6s. Those are more of an unhealthy type of fat. Some people eat some omega-3s, not quite as much as they should, but those are going to be the fats that help to reduce inflammation. It's a ratio of omega-6 to 3. So with the counting calories and the macros, you can't really account for that, but if you're trying to get your fats from good sources, generally you're going to be okay.
Yeah, excellent. So one thing that I always notice on packaging in the grocery stores, you see on products all the time, it'll say net carbs.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of confusion about what that means in the relation of fiber and carbs.
Exactly. So anyone out there that's tried keto diet, keto is very much on a razor's edge for carb. You got to really minimize as much as you can. And you often find yourself counting every carb on every nutrition label that you can find, right? Because you want to make sure you keep it down. Well, fiber is considered a carb, but it's not really something that your body processes. So it's kind of something you can negate from your total count. Like if you're going to eat a lot of vegetables, if there's 10 grams of carb, 9 grams are fiber, you're really only getting 1 gram of carb that your body's going to turn into energy.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So digestible? Is that kind of the...
Yeah.
Gotcha. So what about sugar alcohols? What are they? How does that factor into macros?
So they're another kind of more keto problem. Sugar alcohols are things that foods will have to be sweet like sugar, but they don't typically get processed the same in your body, same as fiber. So they're kind of like a calorie that maybe you can only count half of those grams of carbs. You don't need to count all of them, but it depends on what the sugar alcohol is. So that's something that people should get on Google and kind of, if you're eating erythritol, maltitol, something else, check it out, see what they say as a rule of thumb.
Yeah. I've noticed there's also some side effects that come with sugar alcohols.
Sometimes they make people fart.
Yeah. Definitely create some bad stuff in here.
Yeah, don't do it all the time. But, if you need to get a Quest bar and get some protein, I think they have a bunch of erythritol in them. Mm-hmm. That tends to be one of the more managed sugar alcohols. More friendly.
Gotcha. So insulin, you see a lot of people talking about this too. How does that relate to this topic?
Yeah, so the thing with calorie counting and macros is you have more flexibility, but you can kind of choose how hard you want things to be on yourself. Like if you have ice cream for lunch, that's fine. But you have that ice cream, you're going to get an insulin spike. Whenever you have a lot of sugar, your insulin spikes up. And what happens is eventually your insulin falls. When your insulin falls, you get hungry. So you kind of ride this roller coaster of insulin up and down. So you want to try to avoid that roller coaster and have more of an even keel throughout the day. But, if you want to eat ice cream, you can do it.
So maybe just have a small amount so you don't just spike your insulin.
Yes. Yeah. Like for me personally, on days when if I have like a really carby lunch or if I have something sweet earlier in the day, I get real hungry later. But if I have, 75 grams of protein for lunch, I feel much better for the rest of the day.
Mm-hmm. So what type of different kind of topic just reminded me of this? So when I look at macro data and I'll see something like rice that has a bunch of carb but no sugar, it doesn't have the same effect. Like, what's the difference between that type of carb and a sugar carb?
It's the same thing essentially. Rice will still spike your insulin. The difference is going to be if you have a white rice versus maybe a brown rice. The white rice is going to digest quicker, so you're going to have more of that insulin spike. Sugar is kind of the word that people tend to get afraid of now more and more, as they should. Sugar itself is what causes a lot of problems with inflammation, gut health, as well as the spiking of insulin, which can still happen with other foods too.
Great. So do you have a general guideline of what you recommend for macro ratios, generally speaking?
Yeah. So the kind of the rule of thumb would be start with your protein requirement for the day. So most people have kind of a protein goal they need to hit. So usually it's between 0.8 and 1.2 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass. And if you're lifting weights, doing a lot of athletic activity, you want to be on the higher end of that. If it fits your macros, IIFYM, they factor all that stuff in. That's why they do ask you those questions about what your activity is.
Excellent. Is there any other general stuff you'd like to cover in terms of macros?
Stay healthy. Count them up. That's
it. That's what it's all about. Again, everyone, stay healthy with Heartland. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming on, Mr. Nick Redding. We will see you soon.
Good seeing you guys.